Hello, my beautiful people. Hope you guys are doing great. Welcome to today's latest news. Hey, stimulus family. If you have plans for June, cancel them since the IRS has announced they'll give us up to $6,000 in cold, hard cash. Next month, three $2,000 stimulus check payments will be released to everyone who received the previous rounds, including Social Security, SSI, Div beneficiaries, and even higher-income households. This is the biggest single-month money bomb since the pandemic began, with $6,000 infusion affecting upwards of 150 million American bank accounts. My channel is your trusted source for Social Security and fourth stimulus check updates for American seniors, including Ssdi and VIA recipients. I hope you're all doing well. Let's get started. We've been eagerly awaiting updates on potential new stimulus checks and relief payments for months, and finally from the IRS and federal government. The IRS has announced that they will release a new round of $2,000 stimulus checks in June, and it gets better. In June, Social Security, Ssdi, and VIA recipients will receive three stimulus payments of $2,000 each, totaling $6,000 in cash money deposited directly into millions of Americans' bank accounts. This is game-changing stuff. Before we get into the details, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We're approaching 2 million subscribers, and this is breaking news you don't want to miss. The IRS Commissioner announced today that these new stimulus checks are part of the recently passed American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2023, which Congress passed in March to continue providing economic relief and support to American citizens and families still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, record-high inflation, and turbulent economy. Federal unemployment benefits are renewed at $400 per week, a lifeline for those still unemployed. The $1,000 inflation rebate for every American adult and child, regardless of income, is the most surprising provision. Student loan installments have been suspended until January 2025. Yes, you heard that right. Millionaires and higher-income households will receive $1,000 direct payments. The White House argues that everyone has felt the sting of inflation over the past couple of years, from the uber-wealthy to those living below the poverty line. Anyone who received the previous stimulus checks from 2020 and 2021 should expect this new payment automatically. The IRS will use your latest tax return information and previous payment details to determine eligibility. And if you're on supplemental income programs like Social Security, Ssdi, SSI, or benefits, you're confirmed. Household heads get $112,500 and married couples $150,000. Joint filing, like prior rounds payments, will start phasing out above those income thresholds until hitting the hard caps of $999,000 for singles and $198,000 for joint filers. And if you haven't filed your 2022 tax return, yet don't panic. The IRS has stated they will use either your 2021 or 2020 return to determine eligibility if your latest isn't on file yet. Though heads up, you'll definitely want to get your 2022 taxes squared away as soon as possible. It's also important to note that since this is a new piece of legislation, the structure and rules around things like garnishment protection eligibility for dependents and more could potentially differ slightly from the previous stimulus packages, but the IRS has assured the public they will be releasing robust resources and FAQ guidance over the next few weeks to address all the specifics and clear up any confusion. So now for what you all are probably wondering, when can we actually expect to see these payments hitting our bank accounts? Well, according to their preliminary timeline, the IRS is targeting the following schedule. The first wave of stimulus checks for Social Security recipients and other federal beneficiaries will be issued in the first week of June. The Treasury hopes to send out the majority of these checks by the June 7th federal holiday for qualified Americans. The second wave of payments is planned to start going out consistently over the next 2 weeks between June 9th and June 23rd, since the legislation calls for 3 distinct payments in June the 3rd, and final wave of checks should be fully distributed to all remaining eligible households before the end of the month on June 30th. Now, as is always the case with these things, we could certainly see some delays or snags pop up. Along the way, the IRS will undoubtedly have their hands full processing and issuing over 150 million direct payments in just a few weeks. But as of now, their official line is that upwards of 90% of Americans should have all three of their stimulus checks successfully paid out by July 1st Ssdi at the absolute latest. So buckle up, start budgeting and planning how to best use the extra $6,000 and get ready to feel some real economic relief just in time for summer while we now have some firm dates and details to work with. I'll be continuing to monitor this situation and any new updates from the IRS like a hawk. Every few days, I'll release videos answering frequent questions, provide the latest processing data from federal agencies, and clear any confusion as more facts surface in the coming weeks. These stimulus checks may help put out short-term fires, but these critiques are fair. They don't get to the root causes of our economy's problems. $6,000 is generous, but it'll get eaten up quickly with today's prices for housing, gas, food, and other essentials rising at ridiculous rates, and the national debt picture only getting worse. I think most people, even if they have reservations about the long-term implications, would rather have $6,000 than nothing. There are plenty of arguments about where the blame lies, but I do. While $66,000 is a large sum that will help tens of millions, it's only a band-aid on a far deeper economic wound that will require much more long-term solutions. Policy solutions to address income inequality and productivity wage growth, discrepancies, massive investments in domestic manufacturing, renewable energy, and innovation, to create millions of new high-paying jobs, real consequences for corporations engaging in price gouging and profiteering, and a hard look at our spending priorities in fiscal house as a nation. These are the types of fundamental systemic changes we desperately need to enact, not just endless stimulus band-aids that risk digging an even deeper hole. But hey, I'm just a YouTuber breaking down the news, not an economist or policymaker. I'm all for this $6,000 payments, providing some temporary support and breathing room for those in need. And who knows, maybe it really does help spark enough consumer spending and demand to kickstart the economy. What I do know is that I'll be right here continuing to analyze all the latest developments, crunch the numbers, and give you my honest perspective each step of the way. So keep it locked here on the channel as we closely track the timeline for these payments actually hitting bank accounts. I'd encourage everyone to start preparing and budgeting if they're eligible for the full $6,000. There are still a few blind spots around eligibility rules, such as dependents, processing delays, new tools to track payment status, and more. I'll be digging into all those specifics over the coming days and weeks, and as the IRS releases new information and guidance, I'll be right. You need to stay informed in the meantime. Leave your thoughts and reactions in the comments, and let me know if you have any other burning questions I can address in an upcoming video. That's the end of today's video. See you in the next one. Subscribe to the channel for more videos.